The base is dropped in Atlanta, Georgia. Soccer Down Here, Thursday Thoughts edition of the show, October 25th. Jason Longshore, John Nelson, Jarrett Smith with you this morning. And, guys, we've got a couple guests joining us later in the show. Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic joins at 9:30. And I know we'll be talking a little bit of Copa Libertadores and Boca Juniors with Felipe, maybe a little bit of Piti Martinez and River Plate from the night before. 10 o'clock, Daniel Feuerstein of Once a Metro and Feuerstein's Fire weekly show on Blog Talk Radio. He'll be joining us to talk about the Supporter Shield race and the Red Bulls and maybe a meeting down the line between Atlanta and Red Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. But, guys, let's get started with our friend Doug Robertson's article over at the AJC. It's a blog. I don't want to say article. It's a blog. This is Doug's thoughts, and this is his personal thoughts on overpaid and underpaid players in the league. The salaries just came out recently. One thing I would say, and Doug says it too, these lists are based solely on this year. So some of these contracts were signed with something bigger in mind, off-the-field considerations. Maybe they've performed up to the standard in previous years, but not this year. There's lots of different stuff that plays into it. But these were Doug's thoughts, and I'm sure we'll have a few different players to add in as well. But on the overpaid side, John, Tim Howard.
Yep.
In this year, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yeah, like you said, this year, yep.
I would say, in general, to be honest, because of his position, more so than who he is as a player and what he's done as a player, I think goalkeeper at $2.475 million designated player salary is not all that necessary in this league. When you look at goalkeepers around the league who are not getting games on a regular basis, and there's a guy in Colorado named Zach McMath who was doing really well when Howard was signed. But let's be real. This was not just about Tim Howard's performance as a goalkeeper. This was early in the 2016 season. Colorado had been bad since Oscar Pareja left. They had no identity. Pablo Mastroeni was trying to rally the troops and make the Rapids interesting. Yeah. Zach McMath was having a good year. This was very early in the year, though. So, McMath had a couple of games. He was brought in to be the guy there after kind of getting in the situation in Philadelphia where he had been bumped out. Well, then he gets bumped out. But before Howard got there, McMath had a great season, had the Rapids in contention. Howard took it to, I would say, another level. I think that's fair. And 2016 was a great year for the Colorado Rapids. 2017, not so much. 2018, even worse. I don't think he's worth the contract now, but I think everything considered, he was probably worth it when it was signed. Although, goalkeeper, I would have probably gone in a different direction if I'm trying to sign a name to generate some interest in my club than goalkeeper, just because you already had Zach McMath and you could find more cost-effective solutions. But it's hard to say that Howard hasn't made the Rapids more relevant than they were when he signed. This is a tough one.
But to the point that is made,
well, no. Hold on. That's Doug's point. We can talk more than Doug's point. We are not Doug, and we'll talk to Doug about this tomorrow. So I'm talking in general. We're just going through the names that Doug's thrown out there. I don't want you to put it in that consideration. I'm saying that literally the contract that was signed wasn't that bad. I would have probably signed another U.S. men's national team player if I was trying to do that to get people more interested in my team. So, no, Doug put these people on the reason for that reason. We're not Doug. I don't think my name's Doug. I don't think. I'll
Hello,
check
Doug.
my ID.
Good morning. But no, I think at the time I understand what Colorado was doing. You're trying to get butts in seats, and you go for the shiny object, and it just so happened that he was a goalkeeper. And let me ask the two of you this. Is there a position that is exposed faster in age than goalkeeper on the pitch?
Center back. It's not even close.
Okay.
Goalkeeper, no. Goalkeeper, you can play to your 45 sometimes. Center back.
Brad Friedel.
Because when Friedel played for a long time, but when you're center back and you lose that step of speed, forget it. You can't play anymore. Other positions, yeah, it definitely can be, but you might be able to protect it a little bit easier. Center back or really anywhere on the back line. I mean, I remember Jarrett when Gareth Bale made his emergence with Tottenham. What was it? Taxi for Maicon from Inter, where Gareth Bale just ran past him all day, and I think he could have hopped in a taxi and it wouldn't have helped. Anywhere in the back line, I think, is a little more exposed when you hit that number, whatever that number is for you. When you hit that number, it's time, it's done.
I mean, Gerrard, you had the same thing happen with him too.
Yeah, but now Steven Gerrard's different because his game was all based on his work rate. But Andrea Pirlo did play for a long time after he lost his legs, and he was effective if you built the team around him to do it. That can happen. Gerrard never adapted the way he played, and he didn't have the legs. But, I mean, on the back line, there's nobody else. If people are running by you, it's lights out.
There's one dude.
It's still a shame that Pirlo's game in the United States boiled down to him being a traffic cone. Because that's not who he was when he was great. That's not. But, man, if that's all you ever saw of Pirlo was the NYC years, buddy, that's not who he was when he was great. But, that's who he was in New York City.
It was very sad. Okay, so 3 center backs are next on Doug's list, and I would agree with every one of them. Jorgen Skjelvik, LA Galaxy, $1 million a year. Michael Mancian, New England, just signed fairly recently.
Entire LA back line could be on this list, but okay.
Yes.
No, I'm not going to throw Dave Romney and Daniel Steris in that because they're not making a ton of money. This is overpaid. So Skjelvik at $1 million a year, yeah. Mancian, 1.37. It's still early days. I would say, yeah, right now. He was signed late, more for next year, so maybe he'll get a pass, but it's not looking good. And Lamine Sané from Orlando, $855,000. This has been an issue. I mean, go back for 2 of these teams in the Galaxy and New England last year late when they brought in Claude Dielna in New England, who wasn't even making it into 18s in the second half of the year, and Michael Ciani in L.A., which was another one that was just a big contract based off of a pedigree and somebody who couldn't play in this league at this point.
$600,000 for Ciani.
I mean, and that's overpaid in my book because he couldn't run. Dielna can't run. There's a thing, and all these guys kind of fit into it. Mancian probably has the best pedigree when you look at his CV. There's always been a thing about, okay, I'm going to go get a European center back, and they'll be fine. They'll be able to play in this league. It's MLS. They'll be fine. No. Just no. The league has passed a lot of these types of guys on. It's athletic, it's fast paced, it's tough on you because of playing on turf, traveling, all of that wears on you. And guys on the other side of 30, the pedigree doesn't really mean too much if they can't keep up anymore, Jared.
No, we see that even with guys who are domestic, guys who are international. It doesn't matter. Like you said, once you hit a point, that's it. Doesn't matter if this is MLS. Doesn't matter if it's England and you want to, or Spain and you want to play that game of. Well, they could do it in a different league. No, like when you hit a certain point, that's it. Because the gap is still there, but it's not the Mariana Trench like it used to be. You can't just say, well, that guy can't play in Europe. We're going to send him to America and he'll be fine. That doesn't mean a thing anymore. And you can bring somebody in here, they're still going to get roast chicken on them. I mean, it ain't good. And yeah, if once what you've built your game around is gone, you can't just hide in MLS and make a paycheck. You can't.
No. And even if these guys are not, they weren't necessarily speed guys. Although Skjelvik was supposed to be one of the fastest players in the league when he signed. He still allowed a lot of goals. It's just the quality's not there, and that's going to be something that I think some front offices have to come to grips with is you need to go shop younger defensively. TAM allows you to go get some quality defenders to be able to deal with the attack in this league, because where are teams going to spend most of their money? On the attack. Because those are the guys who sell the shirts. That's where most of your designated players are going to be. That's where most of your talent's going to be. So if you're not signing defenders who can play at that level, you're going to get exposed. And I think all of these guys maybe could have played at that level earlier in their careers, but they're not there now, and they can't hang on. That resume doesn't earn you anything on the field in MLS, and I think that's maybe one of the biggest changes in the league over time. Next up, Sasha Kljestan, $1.1 million a year. I would say, one, Orlando didn't sign him to a new contract. He was brought over in a trade. He's one of those guys at 33 years old. This is probably a salary number that was based off past performance. And he absolutely earned it. I mean, this is the guy who led the league in assists over the last 2 seasons. It fell off in Orlando. Is it Kljestan? Is it Orlando? Is it talent around him? Is it somewhere in between? It kind of feels like all of the above. But at 33 and on that type of salary, that's a tough one to take because, we've talked about it a lot with Father Time's Undefeated. I don't know if Kljestan's hit that wall yet. We'll see next year. But it's going to be harder and harder for him to justify that type of salary with the type of performance that we've seen so far, John.
Right. And I'm down with Choice D, all the above, but quickly going back to LA, just to fill in the holes in that conversation. Romney's at 74.4. Steris is at 132. Ashley Cole at 722.5 is his total compensation.
Ashley Cole's deserved every dollar he's made. He's been outstanding for the Galaxy. And yeah, it's really starting to hit him, how many years he's got on him. But I was so skeptical of Ashley Cole coming to Major League Soccer.
I was too.
And he's been great. So, you run this thing, and when you talk about building a team and you're signing guys to contracts, I think we all know that when you get into this age bracket, sometimes the last year or so of that contract, you're going to have to eat some money, and the player's not going to be able to perform to that level. You're paying them for the early years in the contract, and for some of these guys, you're paying them based off what they've done for you in the past. I think we all know that, so it's easy to pick on somebody like Kljestan in this point. $1.1 million a year for the 2016 and 2017 leading assist man in the league. It's a bargain. It's absolutely a bargain. So at this stage of the contract, it's not really a shock that he would come up as overpaid. I'm not going to put as much of that on him. Orlando's been bad all the way around. He's went through 3 coaches this season. Now, next year, it's going to be interesting, and what his future is in Orlando because of that contract is going to be very interesting. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. We've got more to go through. Both on the overpaid
he pauses
and
at the next guy.
Yeah, because there's a lot to get into. I mean, if we want to hold the break, I can keep going. I got no problem.
No, that was perfect timing.
We're going to take that break, and we'll come back after this.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
And we're back. Soccer Down Here, October 25th, Thursday Thoughts Edition. We want to get your thoughts on Doug's blog over at the AJC about overpaid and underpaid players in Major League Soccer. And John picked up on it pretty quickly who the next player on the list was on the overpaid side. Doug's favorite, Michael Bradley. $6.5 million. Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with what Doug says here at the beginning. That salary for a player that doesn't score, rarely assists, rarely tackles, it's a little harsh, rarely creates chances, maybe a little harsh, whose legs look shot. I'd say that's a little harsh. $6.5 million for his performance in 2018, 100% overpaid. Absolutely 100% overpaid. But when Toronto started making these moves and when Toronto really started to push Major League Soccer in a different direction, because they did, they went out and they got Bradley from Serie A. They went out and they got Josie Altidore. They went out and they got Sebastian Giovinco from Juventus. And they paid all three of them a lot of money to come to a bad team. They delivered. They've delivered in Canadian championships. They've delivered in putting the team into CONCACAF. They delivered last year with a year for the ages. MLS Cup, first one in club history. Supporter Shield, first one in club history. I think for 2018, sure, he's overpaid because it was a bad year and he had a bad year. Like I said, he shouldn't have been in the national team in these last set of friendlies. His performance this year did not deserve that call-up. But his salary, again, was for the whole contract. He is getting up there in age. He's not going to see another salary like that. I think that's easily understood. But he brings more to the team, and he always has for me, than goals, assists, all of this stuff. He is the most polarizing player, I think, ever in the United States, even more than Landon Donovan, because of conversations like this. You get Victor Vasquez, you get other Hugo Perez talking about, he's a player like Sergio Busquets. He's a player that I would play as an 8, and he would fit into any team in the world. You get players talking like that, and then you get the other side of he's terrible and he shouldn't even have ever been on the national team. So the ups and downs of Michael Bradley is incredibly fascinating to me. But straight up, for 2018, is he overpaid? Yeah. The team did not deliver. He was not paid to have a good season. He is being paid, as is Altidore, as is Giovinco, to win trophies. And they didn't do it. They didn't win trophies in 2018. So that's what he's being paid for, is for the team to win trophies. He's not being paid for individual stats, and they didn't do that. So, yeah, he's overpaid.
Go ahead, Jarrett. I'm backing up for this one.
There's not. No. I'm not playing radio.
John's going to get a running start.
No, I'm not playing radio here. Like, there's nothing I said that's like outlandish or crazy. No. I'm not yelling at Doug. I'm agreeing with Doug.
I'm not saying that. I'm going back to what happened off air. I'm breaking the fourth wall here. I know that Jarrett had a point to make, so I'm deferring and letting him go. I'm not saying that there was going to be a battle royal between the two of you. I'm just backing my truck up so Jarrett can get in the parking space.
I really don't have a point to make.
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing to go there.
Like, I think that Bradley this point is overpaid for, where things are. He still is Michael Bradley, which is going to always be a polarizing thing. Just being Michael Bradley is polarizing. He is like his own independent film at this point in his career.
The Fellini of MLS.
Man, it depends. Like you saying, to the left or the right when you look at the picture, because that either means you're looking at the Mona Lisa or you're looking at a kid's finger painting. I really don't have a point to make about it that wasn't made just now by Jason. I think he's overpaid at this point, based on what you're getting out of him. But I understand that the players in Toronto have spoken glowingly about what he is on and off the field and what he means to them and what he means to that team. So we can look at it financially and say, yes, he's overpaid. But I think when you ask the players and what he means and you get into the non-tangible things, it softens that hit a bit.
It better, because when you have a guy like Victor Vasquez, who, mind you, played with these guys. Victor Vasquez would have been a legend at Barcelona if he hadn't had injury problems. He was regarded to that level. He came up with Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets. This is not somebody saying from watching on TV. This is somebody who would know. And when he says that Michael Bradley reminds him of Busquets, I'm going to take Victor Vasquez's word on that. The other thing that's important here is Toronto, when they made these signings, and even still, they're in a different situation than a lot of teams. They can afford to have a player like a Michael Bradley at this type of salary for what he brings to the team. They don't have to spend that money on a guy who's going to score 30 goals or make, have 30 clean sheets or have 30 assists. They have the money to spend, and the ownership is committed to signing good players and players that help the team win. And Bradley does that. It's not about stats with him. He's helped that team win over time and make them a relevant team in this league, which they were not when these signings started. Remember how long it took Toronto to get good. These signings were a big part of that. LA Galaxy, another one. Man, they've got a lot of players on this list. Giovanni Dos Santos. I don't think there's any discussion here. $6 million a year for what Dos Santos has brought to you in 2018 or ever. I think he's been such a weird case, because you saw him come up. You've seen flashes of just unbelievable brilliance from him, and you never get consistent delivery of that. It's always been fits and starts in his career and just never sustained quality. So it's hard to justify that. It did help bring Jonathan Dos Santos to the team, and I think he's been really good. But Gio, I don't know what his future is in LA. I don't know if they can offload him, but I don't know if they really want to keep him either, John.
Liga MX, maybe?
It's $6 million a year. That's tough. That's the problem. And this is something I think a lot of people don't get when you're talking about transfers, is you're not ripping up contracts and starting again. He's under contract. He's going to get paid. If he's going to get transferred, you're transferring that contract. Now, you might be able to figure out something in terms of, well, we're going to sign you for more years and spread the money out a little bit more. And, no, you're not going to lose any money, but we're not going to pay you that much in one season. Maybe you can redo a contract, but the player doesn't have to agree to that. So that salary figure, in addition to just being, not what you've gotten from him at all in his career there, it makes it really hard to offload him because it's a huge number.
And when you look at these, you just look at these numbers and, can you get paired with a franchise that'll sit there and say, okay, yeah, we'll take him, but you're going to have to take some of his salary like we see in other sports. There might be a middle ground somewhere, but I don't know where that would be.
Well, in MLS you can do that, but then you're not going to be able to do those types of deals, across leagues. Yeah, it's just not going to happen, and you're going to basically take some of the transfer fee off to let the team pay salary. So then you're basically giving him away. And that's tough to justify, too. So it's a really tricky situation all the way around with Gio. The next one, it's interesting, and I know we've had many conversations, Doug and I, about the Michael Bradley stuff, but Bastian Schweinsteiger's in the same boat, and he's paid $6.1 million. Chicago has been one of the worst teams in the league most of the season. Yes, they would be worse if he wasn't there, absolutely. Toronto would be worse if Michael Bradley wasn't there. So can Chicago justify spending that type of money on one guy and ignore, and this is where it's a problem for me, because Toronto doesn't have this issue. Toronto's deep. Toronto has a good roster. They can have a guy like Bradley in the team. Chicago is spending this money on Schweinsteiger at the expense of center back, goalkeeper, other positions that just have not been addressed. And, are you going to maybe not spend a designated player in a perfect world? Are you going to spend designated player money on a center back or on a goalkeeper? No, if you can do otherwise. But who was Chicago chasing? Fernando Torres, Iker Casillas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they weren't chasing a center back, so it's. This is where it's more difficult for me, and I would be more frustrated when you look at salary figures if you're Chicago as opposed to Toronto, because Chicago doesn't have the talent around Schweinsteiger to get much out of him. And I think some of his presence takes away from other spots that should be addressed.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's just, you sit there and you look at 6.1. Yeah, they'd be worse if they didn't have him, but really where you are ain't much better than being worst. And you have too many holes right now, and then you look at the rest of the numbers. Nikolic is 1.9. Alexander Katai is almost at 1.3. Everybody else is under $1 million. Dax McCarty's at 700, a little north of that. Then you got Kappelhoff and DeLue pushing 600,000, and then everybody else is 350 and below.
So it's Bastian, then it's Katai, right?
Bastian Nikolic Katai.
Nikolic Katai. Okay, so Nikolic is on a designated player deal. You had to keep Katai. You had to go DP with him, I think, next year. So that's it's now you got to make a tough decision, and I think Bastian's on a 1-year deal. I don't know if it's guaranteed he's back next year. The other three on Doug's list as we wrap up the segment: Fernando Adi, Yura Movsisian, Skelton Gashi. Gashi has been great when he's been healthy. He's had a ton of injuries. It didn't work. Movsisian, that was a big number in 2016 when he was brought back from Europe that never worked out. Adi at 1.93, I'd say his career in Portland had made that worth it, along with the interest that had consistently been talked about. You wanted to keep him, you had to pay him, you did. Then it didn't work as well, and now you found a new home for him that number could be a good fit in Cincinnati, and he gives Cincinnati a big name to start things with. So I'm okay on Adi's number. Movsisian was just a bad contract from the beginning, and Gashi, injuries and inconsistency never led him to live up to it. The guys who are underpaid, and we're just going to run through the names on Doug's list. We'll get into them after we talk to Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic. Zach Steffen, Austin Trusty, Mark McKenzie, Michael Parkhurst, Russell Canals, Luciano Acosta, who is a TAM player, Tyler Adams, Julian Gressel, Wayne Rooney, which is an interesting discussion, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I think we'd all agree $1.5 million for what you've gotten out of him is a bargain, and Joseph Martinez, $1.38 million. You would 100% agree that 30 goals for $1.38 million is a bargain. So we'll get into the underpaid side as we go. We'll talk about some of the reasons why those guys are on the underpaid list and who is in prime position for a payday very soon. But we're going to take a break, reset for Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic. We'll talk about Boca Juniors last night in the Copa Libertadores, all of the rumors surrounding Atlanta United, and one that's just popped up this morning out of Paraguay. We'll get into that with Felipe on the other side. Stay with us.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, October 25th edition, Thursday Thoughts edition. And Thursdays generally mean Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic joins us. How you doing, Felipe?
I'm doing well. Good morning, guys.
Morning. Let's jump into Copa Libertadores first, then we'll get into some of the rumors that are surrounding Atlanta United and their coaching search. One of those guys was on the touchline at La Bombonera last night and got a big win for Boca Juniors, 2-0. Guillermo Barros Schelotto, what did you think of him last night and his squad?
I think it was 80 minutes of drab soccer, to be honest with you, and not necessarily because of the way he set up his team. But I mean, think about the team that he's playing and the coach that he's facing. Big Phil Scolari. Also isn't the most adventurous manager, and I think for Palmeiras he has Borja, Colombian striker that just 2 seasons ago was the top player in South America. So he has weapons, but I think he went in to get a result. So they sat back, they tried to counter, they just didn't have really anything on the counter, and then Boca Juniors, before the game, I think there was a lot of question marks about the lineup that Schelotto chose. Edwin Cardona, one of Colombia's top creative players. Boca Juniors, he's their number 10. He wasn't even in the 18, and I haven't checked today. I've been looking, but last night no one knew why. Was it? Did he have a knock that no one knew about? Was there some kind of disciplinary issue? Cardona is a player that tends to. He has had some situations with other coaches. He has a kind of a checkered past as far as what he does on the field. So I don't know if he's had some sort of problem with Schelotto. I think latest reports is that he won't be with Boca Juniors. They won't extend his contract. He'll be going back to Monterrey in Mexico. So that's one thing. And I think they lacked a real creative difference maker in the midfield. They're really they had two essentially defensive midfielders in Barres and Perez, and they played well. They controlled the match, but some of the things that he's criticized for Schelotto as tactically is that I think that he does kind of rely on his individual playmakers to just make something happen in the final third. Their attack got predictable in the end, throughout the match, and it wasn't until he made a big change and he brought on Benedetto, which one of his top striker up until his knee injury right before the World Cup, and he made the difference. I mean, he scored a header, off a corner kick to make it 1-0, and just a few minutes later scored, a worldly goal that I still haven't gotten out of my head. The way he turned. A two-touch turn so quickly from about 20 yards out and then just struck it, so well. just really turned the game around, and it ended up being an excellent result for Boca Juniors going into, their away match in Brazil.
So now with the rumors, adding to the column that you wrote, subtle plug, full disclosure, subscriber to The Athletic.
Right.
When you now look at the field with what has happened, say, in the last 35 minutes, how does that add or subtract to what you're looking at with everybody who will be considered now for Atlanta United's gig?
Well, hold on, John. Let's actually say what that rumor is on the air, because we haven't yet. I mean, people are probably like, what, huh? Gol Caracol in Colombian outlet, very well-respected Colombian outlet, or very well-followed one anyway, reports that Juan Carlos Osorio is one of the candidates for Atlanta United. There's an article to go with it. The article doesn't really give you any more detail, but that was a name that we hadn't really heard connected to Atlanta United yet. He has an MLS history, Felipe, but I think there's a lot of other names out there as well, and I would suspect that there's only going to be, another probably 30 to 50 more names added to this potential list?
Yeah, it's a long list, and it's, we know it's going to be a global search. That doesn't mean that they don't already have their top candidate and that they're not already working to make that happen. But I think they'll do their due diligence and they'll go through the interview process. And to talk about Juan Carlos Osorio, that if he is a candidate, a serious candidate, that would mean a few things. One, the Colombia national team job, officially that door is closed for him, because we know that that's the job he wants. Yes, he's the Paraguay national team coach right now, but he wants that job. He has said it. He said it while wearing a Paraguay Federation collared shirt in a press conference, that's the job that he dreams about. So if he is now being linked to Atlanta United, and it's a serious link, meaning he is willing to leave Paraguay, forget about Colombia, and come to Atlanta, then yes, it's news. If it's simply another name that's being linked to the job, which it could well be because of what we know Osorio's aspirations are at the international level, that's the other side of the story. But just before I jumped on with you guys, I was making some final, just like addressing final feedback from my editors on the column that should come out today, hopefully. And yes, I'm giving my candidates, and we can talk about, just the top candidate right now. The way you with who you opened the show up with is Barros Esqueloto, and for several reasons. I think you have to go back to the fact that he was approached by the club, before Tata Martino was even a favorite. And I've scoured the internet and read interviews and videos, and he for the last 8 years or more, both him and his twin brother in multiple occasions have voiced their desire to coach in Major League Soccer someday, and that's rare. Like, you don't hear that from Argentine coaches that are where they are today. Essentially at one of the biggest clubs in the world, and one of their life goals as a professional is to coach in America. So those are things that should be taken seriously, and we'll wait and see with Juan Carlos Osorio.
Let's back up a second and go to 2 days ago. So we saw Boca go to town last night, pick up their victory. On the other hand, River Plate plays a couple nights ago. Pity Martinez, let's go ahead and call it, basically a target for Atlanta United, whether, Darren Eales is going to run espionage drills over by the time it's all said and done. What your takeaway from what you saw from River the couple nights ago and from Pity?
Yeah, that was a tough match for them. It was very similar setup to what we saw last night with Boca. The visiting team, Gremio, which is also the defending champions, came in to hopefully walk away with a 0-0 draw or a 1-0 win, and that's what they did. They got the goal off a set piece, and they defended well throughout the match. They're a big team. Like, they have some big defenders, and they're very disciplined, and they're good. And they were extremely well Tactically they were stout throughout the match, and were really able to contain River Plate's attack. And River Plate sent Gallardo came out with his strongest lineup. And something that I think is interesting about the way River Plate plays, in connection to Atlanta United is, I actually personally feel like they play their style is much more similar to Atlanta's than, let's say, like Boca Juniors, if you're going to compare, those two styles. And I'll tell you why. One, Gallardo is unafraid to put two number 10s on the field at the same time in Pity Martinez and Quintero. And they have a striker in the Colombian Bordes. Sometimes Coco comes in, but they don't really, their attack isn't about like this true number 9. And he's not a hold up forward. They were about attacking, link play, creativity, surprise attacks, speed. And so I thought they went for that, tactic against Gremio, but Gremio just was honestly very well, they play very well defensively, and they were able to withstand. And, quickly, I was listening to, the Wall Pass Wednesday edition yesterday, and Jason, you mentioned something about Atlanta United having or potentially needing like a plan B sometimes, like in the playoffs, if they're facing a team that could do something similar to what Gremio and Palmeiras did, where they just sit back and really defend well. And I thought about that and felt that, in watching River Plate, their plan B is what I would say would happen with Atlanta United. They're not going to go in and say, okay, we're going to change tactically. Now we're going to go to a 3-5-2. Or now we're going to go to a 4-3-3. I honestly feel like at that point, the plan B becomes Miguel Almiron take over the game. Tito Villalba, take your guy on one-on-one. Barco, you need to create more chances. And that's the plan B when you have that type of, when you have the quality on your team. And River Plate, when the game wasn't going the way they wanted, there was video of Gallardo yelling at Quintero saying, you need to take over the match. You need to take over the match. And so that's their plan B. That's when the big time players need to step up. And that's how I see Atlanta United going into the playoffs as well.
Oh, that's a good shout. And that's where, there is a difference between a guy like, Quintero is probably closer in style to a player like a Barco or a Carlton, who's going to create something for others, whereas Miguel is a little different in his role as the 10, where, he's going to create for himself as much as anything, and it's more based off his speed as opposed to that through ball or that pass or opening the field up like Barco did on Escobar's goal. Yep. It's interesting. It's going to be fascinating to see as we get deeper into it. And I don't want to take too much away from your piece at The Athletic. We'll be digging into that in a big way, and you and I will probably do a 1v1 about it. I'm just going to go ahead and warn you now.
Let's do it.
But I wanted to talk about this, the whole Copa Libertadores, Copa Sudamericana, Copa America, not Centenario, but kind of, that seems to be bubbling up more and more. We talked about all the smoke about Tata Martino, and ended up being true. There's a lot of talk about MLS, Mexico, and Canada being involved in the Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana. And there was a huge piece at A24.com about it. And they kind of went into some of the detail of what the hang-ups are. It seems like they want, a final in the United States. What jumped out to me, though, was the financials. And this is where I wanted to get into it with you about how much of an impact you think this could have on both the MLS and the Liga MX teams, but also the South American teams. According to this, teams in the group stage receive $600,000 per game played at home. The champion takes $6 million. They say that the arrangement, including Mexico and the United States, would add several zeros to the final numbers. Is it just down to the money? I mean, is that what's going to make CONMEBOL open up the Libertadores, the Sudamericana, and create a Copa America with North American teams in it on a regular basis?
Yes, absolutely. I think it is all about the commercial success of the tournament, because, CONMEBOL right now can sit back in their chair and lean back and say, show me the money. Because right now, that's one of the oldest continental tournaments If we're talking about Copa Libertadores, it's one of the oldest continental tournaments in the world, and they're doing just fine as far as I guess quality and the clubs that are participating. There's a spike lately. The big clubs are back in the Final Four. Eyes are on the tournament again around the world because there are some top players currently playing in these games. But if they want to open the doors to North American clubs, which this isn't the first time that this has been talked about. It's been something that I feel like over the years kind of always it comes up, it disappears, then it comes back up, and it's always come down to like whether the traditionalists in South America want to keep the tournament as is, a traditional South American Champions League. Or do they want to, for lack of a better word, potentially sell out really commercially, open the tournament to North America, become a commercial success in America, which is a huge draw for them. And to your point, having a final in Miami or Los Angeles or New York would be huge. And so the incentive for the teams, now they have something else to play for financially as well. And that's something to consider for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's something that it's becoming. There's smoke, but if we start attaching numbers, to the rumor and it starts to gain some traction, then yeah, we're going to have to consider it. Jason Davis yesterday was talking about like that logistically it would be a big issue. Teams would have to prepare for that as well. But if the federations are aligned and they say we're doing this, then teams will have to get on board.
And they talked about that in the article. They actually did dig into logistics a little bit and talked about how one plan would be that the teams from the North would share a group, and the South American teams that travel would stay for a week. So you'd have to arrange, league competitions to be in line with this. And I would imagine it'd be the same way when MLS teams go down. So instead of playing, weekly on Wednesdays and then coming back for league matches, you might go down and be off in your league match, play on a Wednesday and play on a Saturday, which would be pretty intriguing. And for some MLS teams, depending on how many get in, it's one thing to have a Wednesday night game against, Atlético Nacional or whoever, but to have it on a Saturday night, whew.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it would just be, what did Darren Neal say when Mike Conti asked him about the possibility of Copa Libertadores and Liga MX and everyone kind of getting together, he said something like it whets the appetite, and it certainly does, both from a fan's perspective, for someone in his position, Darren Neal's, who is, he's fully committed to growing the sport. Not only in Atlanta and not only in America, but in North America and globally as well. So those are things that I think a team like Atlanta United would embrace. That doesn't mean they're just going to walk into these tournaments and just kill it. I think it means that you better have, not just the quality on the pitch nailed, in order to compete with the top clubs in South America, but, to your point about having to play league games, cup games, international games, like your academy better be in place, your USL club better be in place. You better have options there as well, because you're going to need all of those players to step up.
And I like that the Sudamericana is involved in it as well. It is kind of a global partnership between the top countries in CONCACAF and CONMEBOL. It would affect Copa America as well, Sudamericana, Libertadores. It seems like a pretty well thought out partnership at this point if they can come together on the final issues.
Yeah, and just for your listeners, like the Copa Sudamericana is I guess you could call it the equivalent of like the Europa League essentially. It's not the top tournament, it's not the Copa Libertadores Champions League type, but it is an international tournament. It is a big tournament in South America, and it's a big trophy. So yeah, that's that. I think that has to be part of the equation.
All right. Felipe, we could keep going all day, but you have things to do, and we have other guests coming. So there will be many 1v1s coming up as this stuff kicks in, and we'll be on the lookout for your article at The Athletic later today, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. And let me just say quickly, I want to thank you, Jason, and Mike Conti and 92.9 The Game, for first of all, for having me out on Tuesday night, but more importantly, being there and listening to the fans and their perspective, and listening to Darren Neal's completely changed my column. My outline was written when I got there, and when I left, it was something else. So shout out to you guys for pulling in Darren Neal's at the same day that Tata Martino's announcement was made, and I just, because it's not in the column, I wanted to give you a personal shout out and kind of a nod to that.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming out on short notice too. That was a big day, and it was very cool that just the level of commitment from the radio station, from Fido, from Atlanta United, and making it a big deal and doing it in the proper way. It was awesome. So thanks for being part of that.
Agree. Anytime, guys.
Cool. We'll talk to you soon, Felipe. Thanks.
Take care.
Be good.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, come back, wrap up hour number 1. Daniel Feuerstein of Once a Metro will be joining us at the top of the hour to talk Supporter Shield race and MLS playoffs. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
Living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
Had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, final segment. Hour number 1, Thursday Thoughts edition. Tweet at us your Thursday thoughts using that hashtag @SoccerDownHere. We'll get into those in hour number 2. But let's finish up with the overpaid, underpaid side of it. And the underpaid players on Doug's list, and we could probably scroll through and add a few more, but let's talk about it in general terms. The guys who have been big performers like Zlatan, like Joseph, like Rooney, we'll leave off to the side because I think we could go back and forth on, well, how much is too much? How much do they deserve for the goals they score, for the presence they bring, all that. Let's talk about the guys like an Austin Trusty and Mark McKenzie. Who else would fall into this? Tyler Adams, Julian Gressel to a degree. Young guys who came in on small contracts, and Trusty, McKenzie, Adams were all homegrowns. Gressel came out of the draft. But guys who have outplayed their contract and who are in line for raises and big contracts. Sometimes, Jarrett, that can be a challenge because, we see it in the NFL all the time. When you have a young group and they outperform what their rookie deal is, it's really hard to keep that group together when contracts come up. And Seattle just went through it. Atlanta's defense is going to be looking at it pretty soon. Philadelphia is looking at that in their back line with McKenzie and Trusty coming up together, and both of those guys have outperformed the amount they're getting paid this year.
And you got to find that magical number, because it's easy to sit here and say, "Oh, well, we'll just give them a little bit of a pay bump." Well, no, go get. I am a proponent for, if you're a professional athlete and you have a skill set that sets you at a certain price range that the market bears, go get paid. Somebody going to pay you. And this is a thing that I've wondered about with Gressel coming up is, what is Gressel's price point going to be when he's off his rookie deal? Because now he's playing this year, him being unlocked as a right wing back has just been absolutely terrifying, like Cthulhu-esque. But everyone values players differently, and you got to find that right value for you and for the player. But you also have to keep in mind your own salary cap. So sometimes you got to make really hard decisions, and every team's going to go through that. You're going to see Philadelphia have to balance their books with paying their defenders who have been really fun this year. You're going to see Atlanta probably have to figure out how they want to pay Julian Gressel and keep him at that right wing back if that's what they want to do. And you try and just minimize. Like, Atlanta's in great shape in the sense they don't have any really crippling contracts, and you want to keep it that way. You want to minimize those as much as possible. And sometimes they just happen, especially you pay a guy in his prime. You're paying him, we've talked about this before, paying him for past performance and paying him for what he is now, but you're also going to be paying him when he's past that. So you just try and minimize those, but it's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, it's a really tricky balance. John, let's talk about somebody like Russell Canals and the importance of bringing in guys like this. So Canals had not made it to the first team at Hoffenheim, an American, so he's not taking up an international slot, was brought in at a really comfortable number to take the chance on him, and he's been, I think, as critical to DC United's success as Wayne Rooney. He's been massive.
No doubt.
Going out and finding those types of bargains, they're out there, and I think they're a really important part of building an MLS team, especially if you're not spending crazy money like Toronto or Atlanta or LAFC.
No, and I think that this is the assignment for front offices in MLS going forward, is accepting that challenge, turning over those parts of the world where you know that there's quality athletes, going in and getting those athletes, finding them, bringing them in at comfortable numbers. And I like the word that you used there with comfortable. And then that way you can continue to build what you're trying to build with these athletes that you know that can perform, bringing them in, giving them the opportunity to showcase themselves and end up being on a list like that where you can end up getting rewarded down the line if you continue to do the quality work that you were brought in to do.
That's it for hour number one. Daniel Feuerstein joins us on the other side. We'll talk some New York Red Bulls and the Supporters Shield race and upcoming playoffs. Your Thursday thoughts will also be in hour number two. Go ahead and tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, October 25th, Thursday Thoughts edition. And with the weekend coming up, Decision Day on Sunday, Atlanta United fans will obviously be watching what's going on in Toronto, and Mike Conti and I will be there calling it for 92.9 The Game. I think there will be a few folks keeping up with what's going on over at Red Bull Arena, and Atlanta fans will be a little pained to be pulling for a team from Central Florida in this one. But we've got Daniel Feuerstein from Once a Metro and Feuerstein's Fire on the Blog Talk Radio Network joining us now. Daniel, how are you?
Doing great. Jason, what's going on over there?
Doing well. Getting ready for a crazy weekend with all kinds of different scenarios in play. I wanted to start with you just about the budding rivalry between Atlanta United and the Red Bulls. It's been really interesting to see, going back to last year, the first game in Atlanta United history is against Red Bulls. Then you had the scoreless draw that had some contentious nature to it at Red Bull Arena late last season, where Jesse Marsch talked about Tata Martino telling players to kick New York players, and that whole back and forth. Then you had a contentious game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this year with some interesting referee decisions that went both ways. Then you had a very contentious game that Red Bulls dominated at Red Bull Arena. And what I wanted to talk about was something that struck me in that one. I felt like that day is where Chris Armas took over the New York Red Bulls. I felt like that was when the team truly became his, and his personality really came through. What's been the big difference with Armas as opposed to Jesse Marsch?
Well, I think the big difference is that, while Chris Armas is still doing what Jesse has done with the formation, with the press, with every other nuances that that Chris has done the same way that Jesse did, I think he put a little twist to it. I think he put his own personality into it. Now, don't get me wrong. Jesse Marsch did a fantastic job here when he came over in 2015, got the Supporters Shield. I shouldn't say 2015 we got the Supporters Shield, the second one at that time in 3 years. I just think Armas has put in some of his own personal quirks, what he would like to do for this club. And it looked like, seamless transition, but at the same time, it went from seamless transition to, wow, that's new. And, what Armas has done has basically, done that. I mean, Jesse Marsch, like I said, no offense to him. He's done a great job here before heading over to Red Bull sister club Leipzig in the German Bundesliga. But I truly believe that Chris Armas maybe put a little more personality of his own personality into this club. And they're playing the way that, he's still doing the same things, but he's tweaked things here and there.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing at the end, the handshake gate deal that kind of adds to the rivalry now, is it was overblown. I thought the way Armas played it at the end, I watched it from our broadcast position at Red Bull Arena. It was right in front of us. Armas turned around as we were deep in stoppage time. The game's decided. I think it was a goal kick for Robles, and he was taking his time to bring it back in. Armas had turned around, was trying to whip the crowd up, swinging his arms to get the crowd going. And as he was turning, he was facing the Atlanta technical area. And Tata Martino saw it and didn't like it. And he made that clear in his post-match comments. I thought what Armas did was great. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought that was when it felt like it was Chris Armas' team to me.
Now, let me say this. While you are correct, this is Chris Armas' team. Now, I didn't see it everything because obviously I'm in the press box. I'm trying to watch the ball going on. And I did see not just Tata Martino, but also one of his assistants got up and started pointing. Afterwards, pointing and yelling and screaming. I'm thinking to myself, what are they pointing over there for? Because I didn't see it originally.
Right.
And then, of course, I always DVR all the Red Bull games, and I said to myself, that's what he did.
Yeah, and it wasn't anything egregious. I think I totally understand. Hey, you lose 2-0 on the road in that match, you're going to be upset. And if the other team's manager is happy about it, you're not going to be happy. But I didn't think it was anything egregious on either side. It was good rivalry. It's good. I like that edge to it.
Exactly. And you know what? Wouldn't it be interesting to see, depending on what happens after decision day, we get to the playoffs after the wild card round to see who faces whom. Red Bulls, Atlanta United, Eastern Conference Finals, 2 legs, depending on who ends up where after this coming Sunday. This is going to be interesting. And I know your sporting director, Carlos Bocanegra, that we all know about Boca. The fire that he has inside of him, the passion he has for the game. I remember that article being posted. He wants the Red Bulls in the playoffs, and I'm like, oh, this could get very, very spicy.
You think back to, I would probably say the best Eastern Conference final. I mean, there's 2. There was the DC New England one that was just one game back in 2004 that went to penalties. But the best one in the modern 2-leg era for me was Montreal-Toronto. And a big reason why it was so great was because those 2 teams did not like each other. If Atlanta and the Red Bulls face off in the Eastern Conference final, it will be spicy because they don't like each other.
No, it's a bit, and that's the one thing, that really surprised me a little bit. And no offense to anyone that follows Atlanta United, that supports Atlanta United. Last year was the inaugural season for Atlanta United. Mm-hmm. And while, last year, that was a great season opener between both sides at Bobby Dodd Stadium. And then when you heard what happened, what Jesse Marsh said after the home leg in the regular season, like, oh, wow, maybe we got something brewing going on here. Because I can understand Orlando versus Atlanta with the whole southern end thing and, what goes on in the southeast and, between Atlanta and Orlando. But, to see this great side representing the Peach State, and you have this other side up in the Northeast that's been in this league since it got started in 1996, to see the war of words starting and then the physical play happening. And now you got the Armas situation really. As we said, we didn't see anything wrong with it. But if Tata Martino saw something wrong with it, hey, maybe we got something brewing going on so soon.
I like that it's not about. I mean, the proximity I think is easy for a rivalry to build up. New York and DC and the 2 New York teams, the 2 LA teams, Seattle, Portland. We get that. Atlanta, Orlando, same thing. This one feels like it's down to the fact that both clubs approach the game in completely different ways. I mean, I feel like you are as diametrically opposite as you could be when you look at Atlanta and the Red Bulls, with one team that wants to dominate possession and wants to control the play with the ball at their feet, the other that controls the play by disrupting the opposition and breaking the play up. I think that's a huge part of it, and those 2 just completely different philosophies play into this rivalry.
It really, really does. And let's not forget, and I'm not trying to say this because, I'm trying to stick it to any Atlanta United supporters, obviously. No. I'm not. But, being honest, it's amazing to me how Atlanta right now is 0-1-3 against the Red Bulls. The 1 meaning the draw, and the 3, of course, the losses. I mean, to see how dynamic Atlanta United is. And don't get me wrong, I love how Josef Martinez plays. Miguel Almiron, I know he's not going to play today. He's got that injury he suffered 2 matches ago. And to see how Barco has been inserted into how Atlanta United is being run. I mean, everything that goes on, even Gressel has been unbelievable. And, but to see them not getting that first victory over the Red Bulls so far in 4 straight regular season matches. This is where, if both sides do meet up in the Eastern Conference Final, depending on how this whole thing finishes, who lifts the shield at the end of the regular season, this is what I want to see, with the playoffs, because while this is becoming a good rivalry, this is the next step. Now, let me just say this to everyone. As everyone knows, when the Philadelphia Union came into the league in 2010, Philadelphia always has a rivalry, historically with New York, whether it be the New York Giants or the Eagles in the NFL, Mets, Phillies in the National League of Major League Baseball, Knicks, 76ers in the NBA, and Rangers, Flyers in the National Hockey League. And you know how hockey is, with those 2 teams. Those are real rivals that have been going on, for generations and generations, for many, many years. Like, Red Bulls Union has not been a rivalry until this past Sunday, where after the halftime whistle blew, we had handbags in 5 paces. And now it stamped it. But to see how quickly these two sides, Atlanta and Red Bulls, are now in a rivalry so fast, I mean, that is just incredible to see. Are you there?
Yeah, the Gremlins have decided to see what's going on, Daniel. So hopefully Jason can come back in with us here in just a little bit. But when you look at what is going on these days, and you mentioned Rangers Flyers, and I mean, this isn't going full Broad Street Bullies, era kind of stuff, but I think that when you have these kind of connections, and I think that when you can bring in fans who may not necessarily be the hardcore MLS fan, but you can bring in the casual fan and have these kinds of references, I think that's key in growing the sport going forward, where you can explain what's going on and draw people in, especially with games and times of the schedule that are as important as we're seeing here this weekend.
No, absolutely. And I mean, to see, decision day coming down being a simultaneous start times for every single club, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific, all across the country. This is what's going to happen now. The extra pressure now, because something is on the line. A shield is on the line for both sides. And while, the Red Bulls already have two of them, they're looking for their third. I know Atlanta's looking for their first. And by the way, congratulations to Atlanta United for winning the CONCACAF Champions League spot for next year. That's everyone down in Atlanta, and to see how that's going to handle. But you know what? To see the added pressure of two sides going for one trophy, and one side has to win, one side cannot lose or draw. It's just going to be exciting to see what's going to happen. I know I'll be at Red Bull Arena to watch what's going to happen between them and Orlando City, but I also have of course the technologies there to pay attention to what Atlanta does up in Toronto, because this is added pressure. And as soon as something negative happens, it's going to creep into possibly players' heads. And that's going to be interesting to watch what's going to happen if they're behind the eight ball early or possibly late.
And you run into the notion of scoreboard watching, where that scoreboard puts added pressure on you to do things that are possibly even outside of your comfort zone normally when it comes to setups either on offense or defense and trying to get that desired result.
Exactly. That's right. And to see what will happen, at Red Bull Arena, once again, Sasha Kleistin publicly said he wants to spoil the party. He wants to come in. He wants to try and knock off his former club and make sure they don't celebrate at home. So, even Toronto. I mean, look what happened to Toronto. Fantastic year last year. They got Supporters Shield. They got the Cup. They got their Canadian Championship that put them into the CONCACAF Champions League in 2018. And, Toronto is expecting Atlanta United to come in to give them their all, but they want to spoil the party too. I mean, they know they'll be without Josie Altidore because he's out with an injury to finish off 2018. But still, though, Toronto also has the same idea. They want to knock off Atlanta. They want to find a way to disrupt Atlanta, and they're going to do everything and anything possible. Michael Bradley is still there. I know Giovinco is still going to be there. I mean, Victor Vasquez, I understand, is hurt, and he won't be able to play in this one. But you never know. They're all professionals. They all want to go out there. They want to win. Someone has to win. Someone has to lose. If a tie happens, if a draw happens, so be it. But still, though, these are still professionals. They still have pride. They want to go out and they want to find a way to get a win, whether, you're going to win the Shield or someone wants to win and knock off those chances against those sides that want the Shield.
All right. So handicap the match that you will be staring at most intimately from your perspective. I know that a lot of folks are staring at OCSC and going, all right, this is a side that has completely and totally fallen down. And the question comments aside, when you look at Orlando City, what have you seen this year?
I've seen a side that has been in disarray for a very, very long time since the start of the year. I know they've had some good, solid victories here and there at the beginning of the year, but once again, This is a side in Orlando where I think they've been slowly coming apart. Maybe at the start of the end of last year, the whole Kyle Larin situation just completely, I think it threw him into a tizzy spell. I just think that was the start of it. And I just think players just revolted. They didn't want to hear any more from what Jason Kreis wanted. And while, yes, the players do not get fired, managers do, but still, while Sasha Kleistjen has a purpose, I just think he's the only one that's going to have the purpose. I just cannot see Orlando coming into Red Bull Arena. And while they are going to try, I just think the press is too strong, too direct. I just can't see them getting the upset. And I think the Red Bulls, I think Orlando can convert because Dom Dwyer is still a dangerous player. I just think the Red Bulls at home are going to be a lot more different and a lot more direct and a lot more pressing. I just see them at least 3-1, 4-1 Red Bulls, and then we'll see what Atlanta does up in Toronto.
So, Daniel, outside of Atlanta and the Red Bulls, is there anybody else who can push both of them, or is it Atlanta and New York destined to meet in the Eastern Conference Final?
I have this funny feeling that, and it's two scenarios. I want to give two scenarios because I just want Atlanta fans to understand that, yes, I do believe that both sides are going to go to the Eastern Conference Final. But the one club right now that everyone has to be weary of, and the one club right now that I believe is going to be very dangerous next year, because what if they win their wild card match on the road, or depending on how everything finishes up, maybe they surprisingly host the wild card game, but watch out for DC United. As soon as Yamil Assad was picked up by DC United at that time with Acosta, I said to myself, okay, a little bit more dynamic, but who is going to be that third player or fourth player to really turn things around? And until the transfer window came in for the summer and Wayne Rooney came over, you saw it, I've seen it, everyone's seen it. Wayne Rooney is now the focal point of DC United. While Acosta was, you can tell he couldn't handle it. But now that he's not a focal point and he has players he can work with, to discuss with, to attack with, including Paul Arriola, who's been unbelievable since Wayne Rooney has joined. I mean, everyone's been unbelievable. Now you have Assad, Rooney, Arriola, and Acosta. And Bill Hamid came back to play goal for DC United. I think Russell
Canales is a big part of that too. That's a really good group.
That's a damn good group, and I can say this right now: if DC United, if they go a certain amount deep into the playoffs, if they face either the Red Bulls or Atlanta United, just be careful, because that is the team that is, as we say it, the monkey wrench. They're going to be thrown into the works. They're going to try and disrupt one of those two sides, depending on where they finish and who they play after the wild card match, because that is a side that is too damn dangerous, that could really throw off and destroy hopes and dreams for either side. Either way, I believe it will be Red Bulls, Atlanta United, but don't be surprised if DC United comes out of nowhere and just throws a wrench into the works.
Yeah, they're going to make it difficult for whichever one they face in the Eastern Conference semis. Daniel, thanks for the time. Let everybody know where they can follow you and what you've got coming up next.
All right. Well, once again, Feuerstein's Fire, blogtalkradio.com/Feuerstein's Fire. OnceAMetro.com, covering all the New York Red Bulls. On Twitter, capital letter D, capital letter F. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Lowercase EUER, S as in Sam, TEIN. Gonna have on our buddy Doug Roberson from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution talking about your soon-to-be departing manager in Tata Martino. That's a shocker for me that he'll no longer be with the club at the end of this MLS season, but that's football sometimes. Also going to try recapping USL Cup playoffs in the conference semifinals, East and West, and then I'll do a wild card special next Friday.
Awesome. Keep putting out all the great content. You cover, not just MLS and national team stuff, but you dig deep into the lower divisions as well. So keep up the great work. We'll be talking again soon. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other later in November.
I hope so, because I'm telling you right now, Jay, I got to take you somewhere nice. It was too short the last time you and it was too short. Want to see you guys, and hopefully you can get here a little earlier than normal, and I can take you somewhere nice so you can enjoy some of the local flavors of New York City.
Sounds like a plan. Daniel, thanks for the time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, guys.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side. Stay with us.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, October 25th. Microphone number 2 for the day. It's one of those kind of Thursday thoughts days, but we will make it work, even if it sounds a little
Jason
echoey.
made a substitution. In the middle of the second half.
Substitution. I turned to the bench early in the second half. We'll see how the substitute operates. Might not
See
be
if he's
quite
better
as high
than
of quality.
See if he's better than Jurgen Klinsmann, and it takes that magical 6th substitution to unlock the game.
I don't have that many microphones, dude. I hope not. I mean, the last microphone, I guess, tore a hamstring or something, so we're going to have to continue with mic number 2. Let's get into the Thursday thoughts. I'm sure the listeners have thoughts about lots of stuff, whether it's the overpaid, underpaid list or Copa Libertadores or Atlanta United rumors or what have you. John, what do we have?
Starting with Lewis Martin, who had really a question. He says, do players get more money for extra matches like CCL, Open Cup, and playoffs, and are there charter flights allowed for CONCACAF Champions League?
Yeah, charter flights are only for MLS regular season play. I believe. I don't think playoffs fit into that. I think it's just regular season play. So for CONCACAF, for Libertadores, or Open Cup, yeah, it doesn't affect it. Because we even saw Chicago take a charter to Atlanta for their Open Cup match, and then I think they flew domestic from Atlanta out to Seattle, if I remember right. So, yeah, it has nothing to do with it. And money, I know on the Open Cup side, the players will split prize money when that is earned, so that part comes into it. I don't know about just regular Open Cup matches. As we talked about in that article about the Libertadores, the clubs receive a good chunk of change right now in the Libertadores for just playing a group match, let alone moving on to a final. And that's only going to grow if Mexico and the United States is involved in it and more sponsors come on board. So
I wonder where the CBA fits into this. Because this is not MLS competition. I don't know if it has to go through the CBA, if it has to go through the clubs making agreements with players. I don't know. I would assume it's part of the CBA discussion, and I would assume that it will be a rather large topic of the new CBA being negotiated currently, because if all is to be believed, you could see Major League Soccer teams in the Copa Libertadores starting in 2020. That's a big jump, and there's going to be logistical issues, but the players are going to want their cut of that, and they should.
All right, so go for it,
CBA related. Yeah, CBA related things are going to be really interesting. We talked about it yesterday and got into it last night with somebody. That CBA related things are going to be really interesting, and just how this league carries itself and how the owners want to carry themselves. That going to start in different ways. You're going to have to start being a big league. You want to be a big league, you got to start acting like it. So, and this involves making big decisions sometimes, and they're not always going to be simple decisions.
This one I don't think is quite as crazy because it's coming from a position of growth. This is coming from, okay, you have the potential of going into Libertadores. You have more TV money coming in, both domestically and internationally. You have bigger attendances. You have lots of stuff happening. So there's more money to spread around. It's not coming from a position of, we're all broke and we're about to go out of business, so you're going to have to take less money. That's a harder conversation. I think this one, it's going to be finding that right balance. And something I love about how some of these different CBAs have gone in other sports, I love how the NBA ties it to revenues of what the players get. It's a percentage of the league revenues. I'd love to see that type of model here, because then I think everybody is on board with making it grow. I think everybody's working in the same direction then. It seems like it would be less contentious if you're just negotiating what that percentage is of what comes in. Everybody knows kind of where everybody stands at that point. I think it makes a lot of sense.
The contention, though, only comes from the players and the owners sitting there saying, okay, who's more responsible for the growth of the product? And that's what you get into.
Yeah, no, but that's an easier thing to argue, I think. That's an easier thing to, okay, well, are you 55% responsible or are you 60% responsible? Okay, that's fine. I think it's an easier way, though, instead of just pulling arbitrary numbers out without knowing what those revenues are. Now, in the MLS perspective, it's a little trickier, because you have Soccer United marketing as a big part of the revenues that owners bring in outside of the team operation. So would that be included? Would that not be included? How would everything work? It's like Jarrett said, it's a time for Major League Soccer to grow up in some ways. And luckily, it's a time where you also have an influx potentially of dollars to the table that can be part of that growth, and part of that growth for the players as well. So I think everybody's coming from a position of strength here, and that's a much better negotiation than if one side is obviously holding all the cards.
ATL UTD fan getting his prediction in early. The team will be on fire for Tata. Translation 3-1. Joseph with 2. Nagby gets his first. Atlanta United winners of the Supporters Shield. That's his Thursday thought.
Hey, you just take care of business. I mean, I know we're all focused on Orlando and what they could do against the Red Bulls, but you can't control that. All you got to do is win. You don't need help. So you go to Toronto and you beat a team that has checked out for the last month. That should be something that this team, if they're the best ever in Major League Soccer history, it should be something they can accomplish. I mean, Toronto's not going to roll over and play dead here, but how much fight are they really going to have?
And that is the question on Saturday. The next question I want to bring up will come after the commercial break, because it's a topic that came across the bow yesterday and was pretty solid for the future of MLS.
All right, we're going to take that break now. We'll come back and get into a mega topic, it sounds like, from the Thursday Thoughts. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, October 25th, Thursday Thoughts edition of the show. I'm on microphone number 2 for the day. That's why it sounds a little different than normal. We'll get it sorted out after the show. Hopefully it'll be a quick ACL surgery and all will be back to normal. Don, we have a topic that needed a little more time, according to you.
Yes. Paul Tenorio came out with the story that has MLS considering eliminating homegrown territories, perhaps as soon as late 19 and early 2020. And the story was why it matters and what it could mean for MLS over at The Athletic. And sidebar, Felipe's story is now up at The Athletic. Patrick Sullivan asks, what are y'all's thoughts and excellent use of the double apostrophe in the plural of y'all? What are y'all's thoughts on how this may affect Atlanta United's academy program? Will it require MLS teams to establish national scouting infrastructures? ? #Thursday Thoughts.
Yep, it will. And that's the big one. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. We're going to hit this real quick, too. Breaking news. Our friend Doug Robertson is at training for Atlanta United today. He tweeted out, Tito has returned to full training. Miggy still not training with the team, but is working out with the coaching staff. There's your update on the potential injuries for Sunday. Looks like Tito's back in the mix, and we'll have to see about Miguel. You do have bigger things in terms of the playoffs coming up, but, man, you'd really like to go with Miguel Almiron to Toronto and get things done. Back to the infrastructure, back to how this works on the whole academy, homegrown type of deal. So right now, teams have a territory. Atlanta United's territory, for example, is the state of Georgia. You can bring in players outside of that territory as long as it is not a territory that any other team has. That's why you saw Justin Garces come in from South Florida. That wasn't part of Orlando's territory. You've seen other players come in from Alabama and Tennessee, not part of anybody's territory. It's free. You can go in and recruit. We've seen Sporting Kansas City bring in players from North Carolina on a regular basis as they've built up relationships, and that's proved to be very good for their program and their academy. The proposal that's out there is to just eliminate territories, period. And when you look at other countries, and nobody has territories, nobody does that. So you have a club like Ajax who has, branches in every major part of the Netherlands. The Netherlands is tiny. It's easy to do. The United States is going to be a little more difficult. So I think what Patrick's saying about a national scouting network will be really important here. I think there's some more considerations, though. And I think there's some bigger things that do need to be handled here. I don't want to see
players start uprooting and moving across the country with no guarantees of time to prove themselves. You know, you don't want to see a kid from Los Angeles who the Galaxy pass on decide, you know what, I'm going to come to New York and join the Red Bulls Academy at 14. And then 1 year later, the Red Bulls are like, nope, you're not going to make the cut for our next team. Bye. I don't think we want to see that. I think you want to see at least some kind of minimum term here. It's tricky because you can't sign a guy to an amateur contract that has any standing, that means anything. So how is this all going to be sorted out? I think it should get sorted out. I think you should see open recruiting abilities, because then I think more kids are going to get more opportunities. But I do want to see the kids have some form of protection from moving across the country and being dropped in a year, because this is not the Netherlands. This is not a 2-hour trip. This is, you know, a 5-6 hour flight.
Jarrett, what do you think?
I think if you're going to have a region of this country that's going to get involved in recruiting, this is not the battle you want to fight the South over.
So yeah. Kirby Smart is getting hired by Atlanta United. Is that what you're saying?
Y'all, put it this way. Portland don't want any of the Rick Rogers recruitment. I'm sure John remembers that.
Rodney Garner. You don't, yeah. Atlanta United hires Rodney Garner. Del McGee.
Yeah, the South knows how to recruit. Please, God, and Jason, you mentioned this before. Please don't tweet at recruits. If this ends up happening and it becomes a free for all, please don't tweet at recruits.
Don't Instagram direct message recruits, please.
Nope. Yeah, let's not do that. I do like this being open though, and kind of being the Wild West in a sense of letting teams chase players all over the country and give them a chance, and letting players have a chance to go to different organizations that might fit them better. I mean, every organizations are different in the way they play and the way they're run. They might be different fits, and I like that you're giving them this freedom and not limiting, regionally.
Yeah, and I like that. I think, I know some concern was, well, this is going to hurt Dallas and Kansas City and clubs that aren't spending quite as much money. I think it's going to help them, because those are two clubs that have a track record of signing young players to pro contracts. If I'm a player and Dallas is coming to get me and Minnesota's coming to get me, I'm going to go to Dallas because they've signed a bunch of homegrowns, and homegrowns have moved on from Dallas to Germany, to Mexico. That's a better fit for me if I want to be a professional player. So I think it's going to get down to who's the best at developing professional players. It's not going to be about winning trophies, youth trophies. That's not going to matter. It's going to be about I or my son wants to be a professional player. What club, which academy is going to give them the best chance of doing that? And that's where they're going to go. And if they have the opportunity to move across the country to join a different one, they will.
Topka TLC says, yes, national scouting will be needed. Yes, it will be overall a better system for finding and securing talent and finds a place to grow. And yes, Atlanta will be improved nonetheless because it can sell our academy in comparison to most at soccer down here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it opens up other possibilities too. I mean, let's take the flip side. There are players in Atlanta that don't fit Atlanta's system, or Atlanta doesn't see it in them yet, or maybe won't ever. Every coach has their own, players they like, players they don't like, something about a player they don't like. Okay, right now, if you're a player in Atlanta and Atlanta United does not sign you, you don't have options. You can't go to another academy. And that's a bad situation, because that's limiting. You only have a certain number of spots, period. So then that opens up the possibility of, what if you are a player who would fit into the Red Bulls pressing system, but you wouldn't fit into Atlanta United's system as well? Well, okay, if Atlanta passes on you, you could go to join the Red Bulls Academy now. Right now, you can't do that. And that's not a good setup either.
Jarrett Chris Gersel says it will absolutely require MLS clubs to start scouting nationally. Before, when you had a territory, you only had to scout your region, knowing that you couldn't get players from elsewhere, and no one else could go after players in your territory.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have to figure out how they're going to scout, how much money you're going to put in scouting. I tell you who's going to be really fun with this is I look forward to seeing how Red Bulls does with this, because they're Red Bulls and they like doing this sort of thing. They like going out and getting going out and getting young players and developing them. And man, you think Red Bulls are dangerous now and annoying and fun, whatever. Red Bulls start scouting all over the country. That's a problem. Atlanta starts scouting all over the country. That's a problem.
Well, no, hold on a second, though. It's not quite that simple because, and we'll go back to our tactics and philosophy conversation that we've been having a lot this week. The Red Bulls, yeah, it would open up finding more players for sure. But they have a very rigid tactical philosophy. And the Red Bulls, and this is why they're good, they're not just going to get good young soccer players and coaching them to be good young soccer players, and that's nice. It's not a general level of coaching. This is how the New York Red Bulls play. This is how Red Bull Leipzig plays. This is how Red Bull Salzburg plays. And if you're going to be in the Red Bulls Academy in New York, you are going to play this system, period. That's what you do. So you're being taught in one way. In some parts of the country, in some academies, you're going to have players who would fit that system really well. And you're going to have some that are great players who don't fit that style at all, who would not work there. Andrew Carlton would not work at Red Bull at all. He would not have been picked for Red Bull's Academy. It would not have happened. And if he was in New York, then he wouldn't have been able to go anywhere else in MLS academies. That's what this rule can change. Now, then the flip side for New York is players that they see in scouting and identify that, man, this guy really fits my system. He is not what Oscar Pereja would want in Dallas, but he is perfect for the Red Bull system. Now you can go try to get him.
And I guess that's what I'm getting at is I know they have a system. They're going to be able to go all over the country and find guys for that system, but that's every team that's going to have that ability. Which teams are going to prioritize it? And which teams are going to say, that's not as important to us, and we'll find what we can. But
that's a simple question, or that's a simple answer. The good teams will prioritize what their system is, and your academy matches what you're doing at the first team level, because that's the whole point. The teams that have bad academies aren't going to do that, and they're going to stay as bad academies. For me, this gives some of your teams that don't want to spend as much money on transfer fees and on salary an even better way to compete, because it's all about what you have internally. It's all about putting that work in, digging into the dirt, developing talent, and expecting it to pay off. And if you just have a set of academy teams that just play and there's no real system, no real instruction, no real true development, this is going to hurt you because you're going to get exposed. But if you have a strong academy and you have a strong process from first team all the way through, this will help you, and it will put a magnifying glass on how good you are.
And Nick Alifi is already down our train track where he says that Atlanta United immediately needs to hire SEC recruiters. But William Orr says every single kid in the country is going to want to play for United. We could just have scouts show up to U17 national team games and just pick out the best players.
That helps. I mean, that's Ajax. That's any major club in the world. Of course, it's a great thing for Atlanta United. Not every top player in the American system would fit in Atlanta United's system, though. So it's going to be interesting to see the knock-on effects from it. I mean, it all is great. I think it's good for teams that have a plan and have strategy in how they're developing their talent. It also then creates some opportunity, as any move does, because, okay, let's follow this down the path. Atlanta United can get the absolute best players in the country that fit their system, and they do. And they're going to have an Atlanta flavor to it always. You're never going to see an academy team of all non-Atlanta developed players. That won't happen. But you're going to have fewer Atlanta players in it because you're going to be able to recruit from others. So then those Atlanta players are going to have an opportunity to go elsewhere for what might be a better fit for them down the road. It just creates all kinds of knock-on effects, and it's really intriguing to see how that starts to play out.
And before we go to break, here's one I wanted to slide in here. It's from Joe Bost. Morning, Joe. About a year and a half ago, he turned on an Atlanta United game, and it changed a lot for him. Soccer matches on TV prior were boring. After about the half, I was hooked. Now, I try not to miss anything re-Atlanta United. It was exciting and intriguing. If it had been Red Bulls type play, I would have probably turned off because Tata has the fast, fluid type of play I couldn't tune out. I'm never probably going to get to Mercedes-Benz for a match. There are for sure lots like me new to soccer that have become fans because of this awesome team.
You know, this is the thing that I don't think anybody's really talking about enough, that Atlanta United's fan base is not just the people who are in the building at Mercedes-Benz. I think for other clubs in MLS, that is the bulk of your fan base. The overwhelming majority of it is who shows up to your stadium on a regular basis. Here, that's not the case at all. And I mean, I can tell you from my experience talking to people and interacting with people on Twitter, you have so many people that, yes, the season ticket crossover between the Falcons and Atlanta United is small. But the fan base crossover, I think, is large. And I think Atlanta United's style of play, as Joe said, is a big part of that. It's accessible. It's easy to get into. It's fun. It's attack-minded. The atmosphere in the stadium helps attract you as well. I mean, whether you're watching it on TV or you're listening to us on radio, that comes through. And I notice it when I listen to other radio broadcasts or watch other games around the league. I'm like, wow, we are so lucky here. All of that plays into it. But Atlanta United's fan base is large in the building. It's larger, in my opinion, than anybody else in the league by far, because of people like Joe, people who are not going to be able to go to every game or go on a regular basis or might go once in a while, but watch and listen and consume the product in those ways, just like you would with any other major American sport. It's the difference that we talk about a lot, where the soccer bubble in other parts of the country is what it is. It is the people who go to the building. It's the people who watch and listen. They're all the same people. Here, you have Atlanta United as just part of the Atlanta sports consciousness and part of the community. And you have people who watch the Hawks, watch the Falcons, watch Georgia football, watch Alabama football, watch Georgia Tech football, watch the Braves on a regular basis. And, hey, Atlanta's on. Cool. I'm going to watch. I'm going to listen. I want to know how they're doing. I don't think that's happening anywhere else in the country. And it is a very special part of this that I think gets overlooked a lot because we're so used to the soccer bubble and we're so used to only talking to people in our soccer bubble. I would just recommend to all of you, when you get a chance to talk to sports fans, talk to them about Atlanta United. Ask them if they've watched, if they've listened, if they've been into it. Invite them out for a game when you can, but just talk to them about the team in general. Because I think that conversation is happening in a much bigger way than people think it is in the soccer community.
Give you an example before we go to break real quick. OSG Phil went to his first Atlanta United match this past time. And he was up in the 300s with the better half. And they had an absolute blast. There were a lot of folks from their subdivision who went in as a group, sat in the 300s, and absolutely enjoyed themselves no end going to their first Atlanta United match, knowing what was there, but finally getting the chance to see it in person.
Yeah, that's a big
So it has rubbed off. It has rubbed off.
That's a big part of it. It's massive. So just keep that in mind when you think about Atlanta United's fan base. It's not just the 70,000 that were there on Saturday, because there's a lot of people watching and listening and reading and thinking about it and consuming it as you would any other sport, as I consume the Hawks. You know, like I'm not a diehard Hawks fan. I was really into the team that won 60 games and won the Eastern Conference #1 seed regular season. Love that team. A lot of fun to watch. Fell out of it when the team wasn't as exciting to watch. It got boring. It wasn't fun. This team right now, it looks like a lot of fun. I was listening to Steve Holman last night on 92.9 The Game, calling the game, calling the big comeback. I'm going to pay more attention to the Hawks because they're a fun team to watch. I wouldn't say I'm a diehard. I'm not in that basketball bubble of fans. I'm not going to go deep into basketball analytics and next-gen stats, but I enjoy it when it's entertaining to me. I think for a lot of general sports fans, Atlanta United is that. They're very entertaining. They're fun to watch. You want them to do well, and you're starting to get hooked. And the soccer bubble idea, I just want it to be blasted to bits, because we can talk about soccer in the same way we talk about any other sport, and it doesn't have to be only to a certain set of people who have a Premier League team and have followed the sport for years and years and years and call football hand egg. Like, it doesn't have to be that group of people. That's all we talk to. We can just talk about soccer like we talk about anything else. And I think that's something in Atlanta that's been really unique and cool to see grow. Okay, that was the Deep Thursday Thoughts edition from Jack Handy. We're going to take a final break, come back, wrap everything up on the other side. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
And we're back. Final segment. Soccer Down Here. The substitute has held up. It's not a 10 out of 10 performance, but I'll give it a solid 6. Above average.
There you go. Yes.
What else do we have in the
All
timeline?
right. Okay, Cairo with a dream scenario.
Uh-oh.
A January Miggy Sale with a half-year loan back to Atlanta United on tamable wages, plays in the Champions League, then joins the European team during their off-season.
It's possible. I mean, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. The tricky part of that would be then trying to sort out how you replace him, because then you wouldn't be able to sign a Pity Martinez in January. You'd have to wait until the summer window to add him because of the way everything works, because I don't think you're going to be allowed to dodge everything salary cap wise. Like, MLS is not going to allow you to transfer Almiron for big money and then say that all of his salary is being paid by the other side, so he's just not even a TAM player. I don't think they're going to allow you to do that, because that's kind of game in the system. If you can, great. That'd be amazing. I don't think you're going to be allowed to pull that one off.
Drew Gano, looking at Joseph's quotes about his contentment at Atlanta United, if he has a year comparable to last year, with Tata gone and Miggy most likely gone in January, I'd be surprised if we have Joseph for 2 more years. That's Soccer Down Here, #Thursday Thoughts.
Look, Atlanta's like any other big club. You know, you got a guy like Joseph Martinez. I think he's really happy here. I don't think he's looking to go. I don't think he's not in the same situation Miguel is. But if you keep performing like this, big clubs are going to come after you. And at some point, there's a number that he's going to have to take, the club's going to have to take, and everybody's going to have to move on from, and you're going to have to find a replacement. That's the life of a club at this level. It's what happens at Looking at your Champions League right now in Europe, this is what happens at Ajax. This is what happens at a Hoffenheim. This is what happens, at a just quite under the top of a French club or an Italian club. You have players come through. They perform very well. They're going to be valuable to somebody out there, and you're going to have to make a decision. There's a number out there for Joseph that if somebody offers him a contract that he's getting paid, he's going to have to take for him and his family because he has a limited time to earn money as a professional soccer player. There's a number out there that Atlanta United is going to have to take. There's also contracts. I mean, I don't know how many years he's under contract in Atlanta, but you get later into that contract, then you've got to find the number that's comfortable for him to stay here. That might not be easy. Then you might have to make the decision about a transfer. That's the world of international transfers. It's really complicated. It's really tricky. There's lots of moving parts. I think Joseph wants to be here if all the numbers check out. Those numbers might not check out over time on the Atlanta United side, on Joseph's side, on the international interest side. You never know.
Gustavo. Hola, Gustavo.
Hola, Gustavo.
I'm waiting for Copa Libertadores games with Atlanta United and an Argentine team in Buenos Aires, an Uruguayan team in Montevideo, a Chilean team in Santiago, a Brazilian team. Depends on the city. Police like to beat us enthusiastically. A global sport supports global clubs. # Thursday Thoughts.
That was the one thing I didn't like about the article at A24, if they're going to separate it north-south. If you're going to do the logistical idea that I think they've put forth that I like, now you're going to have to pick up some midweek league matches during the season, which is fine. I think for Atlanta, drawing is not a problem. For other cities, it might be. But if you look at where you're pairing up situations where, okay, Atlanta United goes to play 2 games on the road and you don't want to travel back and forth all the time, and you're going to play a game on a Wednesday in Colombia and a Saturday in Buenos Aires. Okay, so you're going to be off from the league schedule from that weekend. You're going to have to make that one up in a midweek down the road. Okay, you can do that. Your counterpart is going to have to do that as well. If everybody will work together on that, that is the way logistically to make it work, where you're going to get 2 games on a trip and do that. Same when clubs come up to the U.S. You're going to play the 2 or U.S. and Mexico. You're going to play a Mexican team in your group. You're going to play a U.S. team in your group. You're going to have to pair up the teams like that. So I would think that you would see a group construction of 2 South American teams, 1 U.S. team, 1 Mexican team, or 2 U.S. teams, or 2 Mexican teams. That could work that way. But I think that's the way you pair it up from a travel perspective to make those logistics work. But yeah, the fact that Atlanta United could play Copa Libertadores games at La Bombonera or, at Independiente or at the Monumental for River Plate, I mean, come on. These are cathedrals. These are cathedrals that you want to play in, especially in a real game, not a friendly, in a meaningful match. These are where the greats of the game have played. It would be amazing for an Atlanta United to have that type of opportunity. The one thing is I was kind of bouncing around with my buddy Derek Creighton on Twitter. We were bouncing around how this would look. I think you probably want to keep it a low number of MLS teams that go into the Libertadores because you want them to do well. Same with Sudamericana. Mexico previously had 3 teams in the Libertadores when they were in. I think you'd probably like to see 2 from MLS. And I would do it where it's the regular season that's prioritized. I would go with the best team in each conference. They earn the Libertadores spots. CONCACAF Champions League stays like it is. MLS Cup winner, the Open Cup winner, the Supporters Shield winner, which would be one of these teams, and the best team in the other conference. So these teams would play CONCACAF as well, which is a shorter competition early in the season. Copa Libertadores, you'd probably have to figure out scheduling and make it work. But I would have your best 2 teams from the regular season, your most balanced teams, 1 from each conference, that go to the Libertadores. And the next 2 can go to the Sudamericana.
Time for a little stoppage time.
All right.
Sherbs, Thursday Thoughts, #. May or may not be a rivalry with Red Bulls, but it felt the same way last year against Toronto FC. This year, we don't care about Toronto FC. Why? Atlanta United will always feel like a rival against whoever else is the best in the league at the time. Every team guns for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the New York one's a little more philosophical, though. And I think that's fueling it a bit. That's why Jesse Marsch was complaining about Tata Martino supposedly telling his players to kick New York players. That's why I think you saw a little bit of that brashness of Chris Armas rubbing Tata Martino the wrong way. On the field, it's two teams that approach the game in a completely different way. And I think that adds to it. Toronto and Atlanta, it was like the heavyweight and the new kid on the block. That dynamic will always be there. It'll flip down the road. I mean, Miami and Atlanta could be that, with Miami being the new kid on the block and Atlanta being established as one of the heavyweights in 2020. So you're going to see these things pop up. But yeah, right now, Atlanta United is the new heavyweight in the league, and everybody is up for that game.
Five Stripe Daily off the news that Doug reported about Tito returning to training. Five Stripe Daily goes, "We need Tito in Toronto. He will terrorize the backline. Also, I personally believe that the weather plays into our favor. Very hard to put in the extra effort when you're playing for pride versus a trophy at soccer down here."
Oh, man. This has been quite a year, hasn't
it? Yes, sir.
I mean, this has been just an absolute wild season. When you start to dig into everything that's out there for Atlanta United, I think for me it comes down to you just want to take things, one step at a time. And that's why you can't really look at what's going on at Red Bull Arena this weekend. You can't worry about anybody else. You just have to win the game in front of you. And then when you get into the postseason, it's a new competition in a lot of ways. You just have to deal with it. You get into CONCACAF, same thing. You just have to deal with that competition. This is something that I don't think MLS teams have been really set up to do. And Tata Martino gives you a person who has been through it and can understand that mentality and deal with it. Darren Eales, same. Carlos Bocanegra, same, through their experiences. I think this is a club that's better prepared to deal with this pressure. But, yeah, the pressure has been something MLS teams have struggled with in these competitions in the past.
And Chris Gersel, back to the conversation we had about the Tenorio article. He says it'll also put real pressure on clubs that have a poor track record of integrating academy players to the first team, e.g. Galaxy and Orlando City. When they had a monopoly on their region, there was no incentive for them to change this policy. That safety net is gone now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Galaxy, it's funny, had been one of the top teams in bringing young talent through and integrating it. Then it just all fell apart. Now you're going to have to put that pressure on. It's a big deal, because if not, somebody else is going to come get your top talent in your region. I love that. I think it does make people a little more accountable, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing here.
Tafka TLC says it'll have a huge effect on the USL. If it booms the academy process like we think, then USL will get a huge boost of the overflow of quality young players who can't get immediate homegrown contracts.
It's a deeper pool of players. I mean, it's just a deeper pool of players, so everybody wins. And it's something that comes up a lot in the youth development world, where do you focus on the very small percentage of amazing players, or do you focus on the large number of everybody else? And I've always believed that if you improve the depth and quality of the overall pool, the top players will get better too. I mean, if the academies are held to a higher standard, so they're producing a better level of talent, there's still not enough spots in MLS for all of that talent to go to. So then next is it's going to go to USL. USL is going to get better. Then when academy players are playing in USL, getting their first taste of the professional game, it's a higher standard. Everything is better. So that's what's cool about it, is everything should cycle and raise the level here. I think it's a good move. I do want them to take some things into consideration about protecting young players. If it's a 2-year commitment for a player outside of the region, whatever it is, you don't want to see players move from academy to academy to academy in their teenage years. That's not good for their development as a person, let alone as a soccer player.
Tafka says, I think Supporters Shield would become the most important trophy in MLS if it gives you CONCACAF Champions League and Copa Libertadores. Holy cow, that would be awesome. I agree, Jason. Each conference regular season winner to Copa.
Yeah, I don't want the MLS Cup winner to be Copa Libertadores. I want it to be Supporter Shield and the other conference winner, because that everybody talks about wanting Supporter Shield to mean more, wanting the regular season to mean more. This would be the way it would. And it would also then guarantee the teams that have the most balance and the most overall depth would be your teams going to Libertadores, and that's who it has to be. You can get hot in the MLS Cup playoffs and win the thing. And that's the nature of MLS. I love it. I think it's great. It adds unpredictability. It's a good thing. But adding Libertadores spots for the best team in each conference in the regular season then raises the importance of that. So then everything is better. MLS Cup is still MLS Cup. It will always be MLS Cup. That's this country and its format. Other, people from outside, when they come into it, they like it because it's different. It makes you think. It makes you look at the game differently. It makes you prepare differently. But if you have both being important, it's the best of both worlds.
Then Tafka follows that up with that much fixture congestion, young stars like Bello, Carlton, Kunga, et cetera, would be guaranteed regular season starts earlier too. Last thought for the show from today, from the timeline, goes to Michael Ruiz. So how quickly do we sign Dario Benedetto after we get GBS, haha, hashtag Libertadores overreaction, hashtag Thursday Thoughts?
He scores goals like he did last night. Whew. There's nowhere to play him right now because there's a certain Venezuelan who is scoring some ridiculous goals himself. So let's wait on that one, Michael. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at potential players that you could see come to Atlanta, if it is Guillermo Barros Schelotto or whoever it is, you got to look at players in their orbit. It's normal. Managers have guys that they trust, have guys that they like. I'm sure whoever comes here is going to have players that they would want to bring with them. Absolutely. That's completely normal. Why do you think Franco Escobar ended up in Atlanta? All those Newell's connections had a big hand in it. And he's been great. You're going to see more guys. You're going to see things like that happen. So if it's Benedetto or not, it would not shock me if it is Schelotto to see a Boca player make the jump with him.
That's the timeline. That's a show.
That's the show. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks for everybody dealing with some mic issues. Hopefully it wasn't too awful on your end. I'm going to hope for a 6 out of 10 rating. That's what I'm shooting for with the substitution I had to make. Tomorrow, Doug Robertson, AJC, will be joining us at 10:30 to predict Atlanta and Toronto. We'll look around decision day and get you ready for a crazy Sunday in Major League Soccer. Until then, mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha snapped ACL microphones, y'all.